Thank you to GameWork Create for being a channel partner. Looking for a Kickstarter game you missed or 3D printed minis? GameWork Create has a huge selection available, all at a fair price. Use the link in the description below to check out all that GameWork Create has to offer. What's up, Rockstars? Welcome to a news video. This is packed full of exclusives, of early looks, of big games, of failed games. There's a ton to go over here. A lot's going on, a lot of Pledge Manager announcements. Trust me, this is one you're going to want to watch, so let's get right into things. Now, as always, when I say right into things, I mean after a short minute where I talk about my patrons and how they help fund this channel. It's because I take no money from any game developers, so that when I do criticize things, that you know it's my honest opinion and it's not inflated with any kind of money sharing or anything like that. If you appreciate that level of independence, there is a link down below to that. And of course, there's also stuff like a Discord, voice updates every single week, so insights into stuff. I do giveaways, all that kind of stuff. That's down there as well. If you want to give, you certainly can. If not, that's fine too. I get it, totally get it. Just a like on the video regardless. And of course, a comment saying that this was helpful helps me out a ton because it makes me know that my videos are actually doing some good. At the end of the day, that's why I'm up right now doing it. Now, speaking of up right now, I will apologize ahead of time. It is very late right now. I've been reading a ton of emails that I've been ignoring for weeks. If you've emailed me, you know this is the case. I've just been really, really busy. I've been doing this all day. So I did this for you guys when I could have been out there spending time with my wife. So if you appreciate that, seriously, a like is the easiest thing to do. And I do greatly appreciate it. Again, it does let me know that the time and effort I put into this is worth it. So hopefully it is. Hopefully it helps you guys. I hope it does. Let's get right to it. Now, I'm actually going to start this in an interesting way, and we'll see how things go. I'm going to start with a poem, which I've obviously never done before. I was talking to Shadowborn Games, and they were talking about, I was talking to them about being an influencer and navigating through that. And I don't know if you knew this or if you didn't know this or not, but there's not like a, here's how to do it, here's not. So I can turn on a camera and just chat with you guys and say whatever, and that's fine, except sometimes it's not. I guess, I don't know, it's something I'm always trying to figure out where the line is and how I should act, and what is my responsibility? Do I have a responsibility? I don't know. See, it's like all this stuff I constantly think about, right? So we were just chatting, and he posted a quote that I thought was fantastic. Well, not a quote, a poem, and I'm going to share it at the beginning of this video. We'll see how it colors the rest of the video, but I thought it was kind of interesting. He shared it in a way of like an actual indie person, making a Kickstarter campaign and then interacting with influencers or, YouTube channels and stuff like that, and people who get thousands of views on their opinions, right? So how does that look? So this is actually by Yeats, who was apparently a bit, look, I'm not a poem guy. Spoiler alert, you probably could have guessed. This guy, though, he seemed pretty legit. I'm going to read the last part here. He says, "But I, being poor, have only my dreams. I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, because you tread on my dreams." Fair point. I like it. I dig it. Let's move on. It's talking about how, like, okay, my dreams are at your mercy, so please be kind, essentially. Interesting take. I dig it. Food for thought for sure. I'll be full for weeks. All right. Oh, Tanares RPG. You know what? You want to see more of that? There's a subscribe button. All right. That'll need maybe different. Okay. All right. I'll give you one thing, and there's a link to this down below. You can look at this. That's whatever. First 24 hours you get a free gigantic freaking golden dragon mini. Heck yeah. Oh, August 31st. Be there, be square. At 1500 UT, I don't know, I'm not in the military, but it's at some point on August 31st. That's just all day. Just refresh. Get that Dragon Mini. As always, I suggest, if you're at all even possibly interested, back day one, figure it out afterwards. Lock in that pledge, press the button. It's free to press the button and cancel later. Just be sure you actually cancel later. Like if you have a knack of just doing that and never touching it again, then don't. But highly suggest You go in early, you press that button, that'll unlock more stretch goals, that'll do all that, and then you can assess, okay, is this for me, if it's not, and you get a better, fuller picture of what's on offer because of the stretch goals and stuff like that. Very beneficial to both sides if you do that. It costs you nothing. I've done it before. I'll back right away and be like, yeah, nah, that's not for me. Cancel. You know what? I'm a drop in the bucket. They don't care, except my drop in the bucket added with other drop in the buckets, and most people, I think, tend to like it. I mean, that's you don't back it, unless you think it's interesting. So highly recommended to do that. That'll be at the end of the month. I will cover this more, I'm sure. So don't go for that. I mean, I have 2 boxes right there. You're gonna see it. Okay, so don't worry about that. Moving on, Masters of the Universe. This has done quite well. I am surprised. First of all, GameFound is on fire. I'm starting with a lot of GameFound in this video, actually. And I mean, on fire in that they are actually being very successful in that. One of the big things about making an alternative website is you got to have the people that actually go there, right? Otherwise, you're saying, yeah, you're more specialized. Yes, I get more exposure, but it's because it's an exposure where nobody goes. So what does it matter? It's like cursing in the woods or cursing on satellite radio, right? It's like, yeah, you can do that, I guess, but who cares? Actually, I kind of dig satellite radio when I get it for free sometimes. My point is that 863,000 for a Europe only, not even all of Europe, specific countries in Europe campaign. That's pretty good. That's almost at $1 million. And it's not like they have like like the collector's pledge is $210. Like it's not even like they're not getting there because the pledge is $1,500 or some junk like that. There's no $900 all-in pledge. So super cool. Really impressed with that. Over 4,300 backers. Update your picture. You've gained over 120 people. Really, really cool. Played this, so I have an unboxing. I have a review. And then I have a video on how to get it if you're not one of those 10 countries in Europe, or 10-ish countries in Europe. I've never actually counted. Either way, like if you're like me in the US and you're wanting to get this, there are ways of doing that. I'll link down to that video below as well. And that's like a quick 10-minute video. So it's actually the opposite of this video, probably. Anyway, they're doing great. They're unlocking a whole bunch of stretch goals and all sorts of different guys. A lot of variety here. I mean, they are going in deep on that. I actually really enjoyed this. I tend to like area control games anyway. There are some that I think I would like and I didn't like. I didn't actually like Rising Sun, but just because I didn't like the whole, like, you can't just do any move you want to do, right? You're limited. This doesn't have that problem, so I enjoyed it. And to me, it felt like a Saturday morning cartoon. Like, just, like, playing through it, it's like we had these certain situations that happened that were unique to that. It was kind of like, all right, this is... I think it captures it quite well. I was worried about it because it's not like super combat focused, but they actually did pretty good on that too. Like, for an area control game, it's actually pretty legit. So yeah, I enjoyed it. If you're in Europe, be sure to take a look at it. If nothing else, you could probably buy 2 copies and sell the other one to some poor schmuck in the USA for a double the cost or some junk like that and make your money back, I'm sure. But no, it actually a pretty fun game. I enjoyed it. And I'm glad to see more and more content being thrown at it. Also, Castle Grayskull Dice Tower, yes please. Moving on from that, we have Flamecraft. This game annoys the crap out of me because I think it looks kind of cool and it's way too cute and happy for me. I couldn't even finish this video because it was too nice. I don't know what this says about me. Maybe I play too much Warhammer. I don't know. I'm a more of a chainsword kind of guy. Let's fight demons and aliens and stuff like that. And these freaking cute dragons, I swear. One of them makes hot dogs. I really like the fact that one of them makes hot dogs. It looks like a cute game. It really does. Not too pricey. The only thing I would say, yeah, look at $40. The only thing I would say with this is go in it thinking there might be a few hiccups. The only reason I say that is because this is such a success. And Cardboard Alchemy, I think their biggest campaign before this was less than 2,000 backers. Now at over 7,000. Now, they've made some games before, and that's great, but there can still be some hiccups when stuff gets to at scale, right? So if you suddenly are thrust into popularity, there can be a little bit of issues that I'm not saying it won't deliver or that it won't deliver great. I bet they will. They seem to run a good ship here. They seem to know what they're doing, especially on this Kickstarter. That's why it's doing so good. Look at him cooking those. Good for him. What a good dragon. He's a good boy, I'm sure. Or girl. He's red. I'm gonna assume boy because that's how I roll. But no, seriously, like, seems to be going quite well, and they seem to have it all together. Just wanting to set expectations properly. Like, if a hiccup happens, if they're like, oh yeah, well, this happened or this, roll with the bunches. You guys are used to Kickstarter. You guys know how this works. Looks fun. My kids, my 2 daughters specifically, would die. They would die, and I want them to live, so I won't show them this. But they would love it. Okay, moving on. Dragonbond, Lords of Vaala. I hate that. I like that. It's way too happy. Let's change dragons. Lords of Vaala. This is another well-priced game. I'm going to talk about price in a little bit. And in fact, it'll get its own video. Trust me, I need to talk about that with you guys. Get it off my chest if nothing else. And I think it's important to say in a public way by somebody who will actually get heard instead of just like some angry comment somewhere. So I will be doing that for you guys, for me, for everyone at a later time. Anyway, like, the SEL plus PDF is only $15, but if you actually just want the game, $50. $50! Gosh, that's like throwaway money on Kickstarter. I've spent more on expansions than that. Please, $50. Get out of here. I'll have it next to my pocket lint. Yeah, I wish. No, but seriously, like, that's really good price for a lot of this kind of stuff. It's another area control style game, with some very interesting and unique kind of minis. You play like these generals and dragons and stuff like that. It's got tokens, stuff like that. It's not like the, oh my gosh, this is like Kingdom Death monster size thing. It's not like that. It's not like a bajillion different things. But not all games have to be, and I'm fine with that. A $50 game where I can do some area control stuff, it has my interest. So I haven't pulled, I haven't dove in quite yet, just because I've been so busy, guys. But it does look kind of cool. I do still think, like, we gotta, yeah. So don't expect that again in the miniature form. STL, right? If you 3D print, you can 3D print skinny crap all the time. But that will not work in like a normal situation. Even then, if you're printing an STL with that, you're probably printing in resin. Even if you're using the ABS style resin, that thing's gonna break. Just saying. Pretty to look at, maybe even to paint carefully. But to use on a board game, it's gonna break. Just saying. Maybe thicken that up a little bit. Unless you're making display pieces, that's fine. But game components need to be game components primarily. I'll be talking about that a little bit actually later too, but like, if you're making a game and you're making the components, make the components for the game. If you want to also make other things for non-game stuff, that's fine too, but keep those separate and realize what that component actually is, or what that piece of plastic actually is, and then just do accordingly. Moving on, we have, so I'm not scrolled up, Legend Academy. This one is not doing nearly as much as I thought it would, honestly. I thought it looked kind of cool to me, but I also didn't, pull the trigger on it, and so maybe some others didn't too. Maybe we were just waiting. I don't know. I dig the idea of, like, I love skill trees, just inherently. Love ARPGs. So like Diablo and stuff like that. I always really liked that, where the nature one, or I'm the pet tree of the druid class, or whatever it might be. Love it. Final Fantasy X with the sphere system. Great. Pillars of Eternity. It's a bit much. I'm sorry. It's a bit much, but stuff like this I really, really like. Inverse reality, right? Curiosity to believe. Like, I really dig it. I like the style of it. It looks like it's kind of an interesting thing. They're definitely doing the whole game board thing. I like it not taking up a whole bunch of space. There's a lot, I think, to like about this. Though, again, I've not dove in too deep into it. But feel free to. Again, everything's linked down below. So, looks interesting to me. Next up, we have Chronicles of Drunagor. Why is it? Okay. All I wanted to show was that they did outstandingly well. 6,495 backers, 1.5 million raised. Again, all they had to do, it's not rocket science, is make a good game, deliver a good game. After delivery of the good game, launch a campaign saying we've made it more and we've made it better. You do those things. That's it. I don't know if it was actually 4 now. I was just tapping my fingers. Seriously though, like, I'm sorry if I'm a little goofy. Again, I'm really tired. I do apologize. That's really it. I always say a good product sells itself. And while that's not actually true, you can have a good product and advertise it poorly. What I mean is, if something is actually good, like, through and through, not just it's good if you look past this, but like if it's just good and people are enjoying it, people talk about it. And then you have a much easier time selling because you don't have to manipulate. You don't have to contrive. You don't have to hype up. You don't have to do any of that. It does it for you. That's why I talk about riding the delivery hype wave. You delivered it. People are enjoying it. You're like, this is fun. This is our favorite game. We're going to play it next Saturday too. I can't wait to play it again. Oh my gosh, I can get these freaking dragon things on. Yes, please. Let's do it. Like, that's how you do that. It's free hype you can ride. Now, it's hard to time that because deliveries are not over instantly. They're not even over in a single month. So you kind of have to judge it. But as long as most of your people have the game and have played it and enjoy it, launching again, I think is great. And so they join Dragori Games with Arena. They join Succubus Publishing. They join a host of other people that are being very successful, just making fewer campaigns, but making them right. And I guarantee their profit margins are quite well enough to go about doing things. Dragori Games looks like they have a very nice office. They did that by just selling Arena and then selling Tanares. Like that's all they had to do. Just two. They're not spamming it. They're not doing all that. You run a lean company, you can do it well. I'm talking too much about that. We're moving on. Finders, Creeperz. This is not something I think I would normally cover, except just like those freaking dragons. I got kids. I got 4 of them. We play games all the time. My youngest daughter is 8 and is very much the youngest baby. You know, I don't want to grow up. I want to live here forever with you, mommy and daddy kind of girl. And so she still digs all of this kind of stuff. And because they reached out and actually seemed to, understand just providing things and also having smart stretch goals. I've always said if you're starting out, first time creator, you don't have any like people looking at you or anything like that, and you're like, okay, how do I provide value in a safe way from a business perspective where like you can't just throw stretch goals because you're going to end up losing money, right? Like you can't just do that. That needs scale to be able to actually do that. So how do you start out? And I've always said like sell other stuff, right? So they got like shirts and they got sweaters and they got plushies and they'll print you out a mini and stuff like that. A lot of cool stretch goals there. Or not stretch goals, but like add-ons and stuff like that are safe to do even at a low scale because it's a known cost profit thing there, which I think is very good. One thing I would say, just as a suggestion, is one of the better features of this is the Creeperz features, and that's not exactly called out, so I would definitely highlight that a little bit. That being said, they got rules, they got a tabletop simulator thing. It's just a cheap, casual fun. Look at that, $28. You get your game. Nice little family game that you can enjoy with your kids. Your kids will get a big kick out of it, especially if they get a giant plushie. Like that's awesome. And again, $40, you get the plushie plus the board. I have spent $40 on a plushie that size without the game attached to it. I have, and I'm always grumbling about it. But to get all of that, I think that's pretty cool. So definitely wish them luck. Oh, and they've funded. They're doing good there. Oh, also more updates. I think your last update says 95% funded. You should have one. You funded now. You should say thank you, if nothing else. All right. Moving on from that. But otherwise it actually sounds like a real easy, fun game to play with a younger audience specifically. My 8-year-old daughter always wants to play with us, still can't because a lot of my games are competitive, and while I'm willing to accommodate, her brothers and sisters are not willing to accommodate, so it's what it is. All right, next up we have Skyrim the board game. This is a small one. I will be showing this more later. I'll be talking with them within the next few weeks, actually. There's another dev diary here, though, and all they're really saying is, first of all, you're about to see some stuff instead of just text. But until then, they're going to talk about some skill tests and dice and a little bit about combat, and they talk about having heavy armor, restoration, pickpocketing are another of the 18 available to you on that. So just high level, that's pretty much what they said, is you count the blips and do some stuff around that and modify based off your score, whether it's legendary, you get to add dice to it and stuff like that. So interesting enough, but it'll be very interesting when we actually get to see it. That's what I'm waiting for. Next up, Kenji's Quest, a classic 90s era RPG meets the tabletop. Now, when it says classic 90s era RPG, it's really talking about video games, I believe. which is why it utilizes a companion app and a lot of other things. Now, again, I'm going to be providing feedback here, so Myths and Miniatures, just understand that's what I'm doing here. So, they got 117 flowers, and this has a great looking picture. Like, I like it. The minis actually stand out. The contrast is pretty good. I can't see, I mean, he's kind of glowed up there, but if that's Cthulhu, you would definitely want to light him up, I think, as much as this. I would do that to all of them, especially the Dark Dragon there and stuff like that, but whatever. Anyway, so cool looking picture. Okay, so we look at this. Classic 90s era RPG meets the tabletop. If you go to About Us and you go to an Inspirations, they're going to list all sorts of video games that I've played. I love them. Great video games. The old style, like Final Fantasy VII, I think is like the latest one they have. So, and of course D&D as well. It's an RPG thing. Launches in 18 days. There's Notify Me on launch. Again, I'll have all this linked down below. So let's take a look at this briefly. First of all, I think this is great. I always love this in websites where you get to do that little popover and you get to see different things, right? That's kind of cool. I dig that. And I understand prototypes, though you might want to, like, if you're going to be taping paper onto mason jars, we should probably, you should mention that pretty good. They got freaking, again, Final Fantasy battle music, which again, I dig. So, dig that style a lot. Okay, let's look at this. So, classic 90s era RPG. $75. Not bad for core box. But what does the core box include? Well, it includes some interesting things. First of all, it has a game mat in here. It has 6 potion bottles. I don't know how big these are. They must not be very big, but yeah, you get potions that you can drink from. You get dice. You get tiny magic stones, which, by the way, like, for a actual tabletop RPG, I dig the use of magic stones. So that I get that. So I know I'm pausing there, but I think it's a cool idea and people can really get into it. So I do dig that, but it is kind of interesting. World and Chapter 1 map, Chapter 1 dungeon tiles, I dig all that. The standees, I dig that. 20 character sheets, dig that. Equipment and item cards, that's awesome. Again, prototype, obviously, those are not cards. This is just cut paper at this point. Chapter 1 skill cards, 2 treasure chests, so we get to put all that in. Pencils, so they provide pencils. An instruction booklet and an access card to the companion app. And then at $80 you get that. We'll move on to that. Now, one thing I want to point out, and this is something, again, I want to make an entire video on. And ironically, this $75 is not that expensive, though you are getting, I actually want to say it's like, are these even cards, or is it like a print and play, really? I'll mention that later. But either way, putting in, because Judgement, Eternal Champions did this too, putting in a neoprene mat into your core box. Let's just talk about that from a concept. Neoprene mats are cool, especially stitched ones. I love it. I think that's great. It has stitched edgings, therefore it's a good neoprene mat. That's literally pretty much my only requirement, is I want it stitched if I want to spend the money on it. That being said, I'm not spending the money on it. It's in the core box. Games are really expensive. And if we can make the entry-level portion of it and not get rid of content, but get rid of fluff, I appreciate that. This is kind of coming off the Descent 3D terrain kind of stuff, plus the app, which apps are expensive to develop, and all this kind of stuff, and plus it's insanely expensive, higher than Kickstarter for less content price. But like to me, the 3D terrain should be an expansion. That, and we've been getting a lot of 3D terrain games lately, right? So I kind of really wanted to talk about, but like, we need to get cheaper core boxes. And so when I see stuff added like mason jars and pencils and rocks, these could be tokens with a rock add-on or a rock upgrade or something like that. And same with like the potion jars, right? Like, because it's not just having them, it's also shipping them and storing them. Not everybody may want to pay for heavy, thick glass mason jars. Not everybody may want to store that somewhere. And again, I'm assuming I would think they're small if you're getting 6 of them. I don't know. It raises questions too, right? Like I might need some skill there. So anyway, there's just stuff like that I see, or like pencils. I got pencils. Like, you don't need to provide pencils. I'm okay. I promise. I'm okay with or maybe I'll use a pen. Moving on to this, $80 for the 12 miniatures is, I don't think, very competitive. I realize that many of them are over 100 millimeters. They look cool, especially this Kraken guy. is a highlight for me. The Cthulhu's okay. I like that his head's turned up more and his tentacles are kind of coming out. I do appreciate that for a Cthulhu. I mean, we've seen Cthulhu so many times at this point. His wings are a little bit large. That's okay. I actually prefer that. So they're not bad. It's just $80 seems like a lot for them, but again, and I understand bosses are bosses. Now this $5.49 for the painted ones, right? And you say hand painted, what you see is what you get kind of thing. Exact specifications you see in the images here. I can barely tell that this one's painted, and the rest I can't even really tell are painted. Maybe this guy here, maybe this guy here. That's because the painting they do is really just black with a little bit of color. Right? This is just black with some airbrush, or maybe even a dry brush. They're not even highlighting the black, right? So it's this primed black with some airbrush, which is a very quick, very easy job. Definitely not, I wouldn't even consider this painted, really. This is very much just kind of a hint or a suggestion of different materials, right? Like, and this guy at least has his base, I think, a significant difference in color. Right, so there's that at least, but again, he just looks like a bluish black. And then this guy's primed white. I don't know if they did more to it. That looks like after I prime my guys white, that's what they look like. So that seems like a lot. $550 for that seems like a lot to me. That's because we have stuff like Tanares that's providing this from the factory. Now, the factory painting is not the best. It's not. And they did it, in my opinion, in a quite cartoony way. However, their teeth are actually painted, whereas the teeth in these guys are not. He has black teeth. Now, unless he's supposed to have black teeth, or they just didn't take the time to actually paint it because they couldn't dry brush it real quick or something. So I think that needs to the price needs to come way down on that, or we need to paint it perhaps a little bit better. When other competitors, and that's kind of the bummer, like other competitors are offering this. So like you need to at least, in my opinion, do this. It's kind of your bare minimum there. So anyway, just feedback on that. I don't know about the game at all. I'm not an RPG player. I'm just trying to help out. Yokai Quest Strikes Back. This is, from what I can gather, a reprinted rulebook plus selling extra copies. This funded a long time ago. They're limiting it to 350. I'm assuming this is just what they have in stock that they're trying to get rid of, my assumption. However, again, a cheap game. $102. Okay, it's a little high in my opinion, but you get all the stretch goals built in and all that, plus an updated rulebook, and they actually look kind of cute. $102 for, well, maybe it's a bit more here. What is all this? There's some Nico Brothers, there's some other stuff here, maybe. So maybe it's actually more. 147 seems like a bit much. So maybe I lied about that. I didn't scroll down all the way there. I only saw this 102. I'm like, 102 for a full Kickstarter game? That seems pretty good. But either way, like, it looks like, again, my kids would love this. And I actually kind of enjoy this style chibi stuff as well. I think chibi and kind of Asian themes go well together, for whatever reason, but I think they do with the whole anime thing. So, and they do that quite well. That's a legit cool. I would love to paint him. This is actually an STL. Add-ons available in the Punch Manager. Ooh, shoot, I can 3D print stuff. Okay, that might be a little scary for me. We'll see. Either way, it seems kind of cool. That being said, definitely from a company that isn't like blow up success and stuff like that. So, just keep that in mind. And they're not native English speakers too. So if you're listening to me in English because you're English speaking naturally, know that there might be some rough edges there as well. But you are getting a 2.0 or 1.5, whatever. They've redone the rule book from the original one. So it's got to be better, right? Next up, we have a Noble War that was canceled. This is not necessarily super surprising to me for a few reasons. And maybe I'll investigate more and do a why you failed. I'm not sure. I don't want to necessarily just do that all the time, but I think it can be helpful to learn. So one thing that you instantly want to do is go look, not at that. That was wrong. I thought I had it open. Is to go look at the previous campaign. Okay, well, what's going on, right? Well, they did Sea of Legends. Right, let's go next out of there. Okay, so they did Sea of Legends, and you go to comments, and you see what's the general sentiment. And lately, last few days, pretty darn good, right? Like for the last while, I think people have been getting their stuff and being able to play and all that. But you scroll down just a little bit and you get people that are running into issues and errors. So they really struggled with the app part of it, to the point where when they delivered the game, you couldn't even play it because the game is not actually playable without the app. And so no app, no board game. It literally kind of proved that if the app goes away, you got a paperweight, which is kind of a bummer. But so people were then trying to play and getting issues. They're redoing architecture. They're definitely investing in it. I think that's great that they're doing that. However, that can cause a little kind of some edginess, right? So there is a little bit of that, which is kind of a bummer. I'm sure that played into a little bit. Otherwise, I think the bigger issue here perhaps is just learning how to play. Like, it has the mechanics here, and it actually shows it fairly okay, though it does take a while to get into it. Like, you get this kind of stuff, right? Like, and so I didn't even know that it showed this stuff until I scrolled back up, because when I'm scrolling down and see, like, this is still showing this junk, right? I just scrolled right past that. They got the rulebook here too, so just FYI, like, I get that looks cool. I would skip that whole intro part. Just show this. Like, just show this. That's fine. You don't even need to introduce it. You don't have to, like, you're seeing soldiers here. I don't need some fancy introduction or anything like that. Because otherwise, I think this actually shows it pretty good. I wonder how many people actually saw this. Because I didn't until I looked, like, specifically for it. In fact, I was thinking, how do you play this game? I was looking for it. And I saw the whole, like, rules. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. And then it like, showed some stuff or whatever. And then again, I just saw this and just kept scrolling. Because it just looked like it was fluff to me, and it's not. And it's cool they got the rulebook there too. So FYI, I think that could definitely help. Also, I don't think there's a great component list. Like, you show, I think, all the components ish here. Like, is that everything? I'm not sure, right? So you kind of need to know what you get, and typically up front, and make that look crowded too, if you can help it. So here it is. Looks like it's right here. Base game and components. So you kind of see what everything is there. Yeah, anyway, it doesn't actually look like that bad. So, yeah, and then, like, they were going to fund. I think they were going to fund. They just, I think, wanted more. And always kind of interesting when it's like, okay, so you would have funded, but not as much as you wanted. And honestly, not every game is a hit. Come On makes a lot, right? And they make millions and millions. One of my favorite games from them is Rise of Moloch. Pretty much a failure. They don't like the game. They're not going to touch it again. They bought the rights to the IP, made a game around it, and it did not do well on Kickstarter. It wasn't a big hit. I love it, but it wasn't a bread and butter winner for them. And so that's, just kind of how things roll sometimes. Sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's not. That's okay too. So, yeah, definitely feature that big old dragon though. I would. Okay, moving on. Next up, here's this Legacy of Atmos. This is some kind of skirmish game, though they have free STLs, so I'll link this down below if you can 3D print and you're interested. Put your information here, get some STL stuff. The art actually looks pretty good on the cards. When I first saw this, I'm like, I don't know. But then I saw the minis, I'm like, okay. Yeah, okay. Fairly standard kind of handout tech thing, but alright, these guys look like they're both just kind of walking, because there's the same guy. So there's like 3 of him in that one picture. It's kind of interesting, but alright. But then I saw this, I'm like, oh, this is not bad. I like kind of the variety here that I'm seeing. So, looks interesting, I guess. Looks like it's cards plus minis for skirmish. I love card gameplay. I love minis. Have to look into this more. Next up, we have Uncharted Lands. This is just STLs, really, and then 5e stuff. Your typical stuff. I mean, it's doing quite well, because I'm assuming the 5e stuff is good, but I cannot comment on that, so nothing I can do there. However, they do have a lot of STLs, too, so there's that, too. And to be honest, I'm tempted just to grab this for the terrain for Warhammer, but then I'm like, oh, but he's kind of cool. I'd print him, and ooh, what's this guy doing here? Oh, that might be kind of neat. And then so I get into that kind of mode, right? And it's kind of cool that they package them like this. Like, here's all that you would get here, but then you can also just get like all the game components with the miniature packs too, which I think is kind of cool. And they look like they have a wide variety of stuff, so that's neat too. Moving on, 6 Siege the board game by Mythic Games. August 18th, it'll be on the GameFound for the PM. That is soon. Less than a week away. So prepare your wallets. Next up, we have Townsfolk Tussle. They are off to the printers. Just as an FYI, you have until September 2nd to update your shipping. Otherwise, you are locked in. Oh, and you should probably pay for it as well. I want to look at some of the minis, though, just because I think they look super duper cool. Some of my patrons are on here, by the way. That'd be cool to see as well. But I love the style. I really do. I like it a lot. Painting these would be so cool. I love the safe and the twins here. And it looks so good. And everything's kind of nice and chunky, but in a way that's acceptable. I do see mold lines, right? So we got mold lines here, and here. These aren't going to be like the, oh my gosh, best minis ever thing, but especially for the scale is really good. But also just the style, I think, lends itself well. But it was honestly sculptable too. The teeth actually are defined well. The eye is defined very well, right? The insert here, it looks like it fits quite well. The more I look at it, the more the barrels are not solid. They're actually put in there. Again, there's some nice touches here. They actually did a quite good job. All the bases are custom sculpted. Looks great. I dig it. I love it. I think these will be cool. I can't wait to show these off. Dual layer boards there. That looks great. All of it looks really, really nice, in my opinion. So really nice to see them succeed as well. Moving on. Judgement, Eternal Champions. Their pledge manager, August 16th. So take that, Mythic Games. They beat you by 2 days. Just as an FYI. Next up, we have Tanares. This is just saying essentially that pledge manager, August 24th is when it's closing. So again, there's some opening, some closing, a lot there. Also, August 30th, we will be getting some Tanares RPG stuff as well. Again, do remember that you will be getting that free 24-hour mini Golden Dragon thing if you sign up. So definitely be looking out for that. Tanares, I just left that. Twisted Fables, North America, I still don't have my copy. And that makes me sad a lot. Really, I want to play that game again. I really enjoyed it. I want to see the minis. I want to maybe paint some of them. They got freaking bright neon colors. That would be super cool to do. Yeah, but Quartermaster Logistics doesn't have it yet. They're stuck in the LA port. Everything's crowded. Everybody's buying crap online. Everybody stop buying stuff so I can get my game. Do that. It is what it is. It sucks, but, whatever. Whatever. Nova Aetas, the freaking Dino Draco was cool. I do dig that. I like the style of it a lot. The wingspan is kind of ridiculous. I like Dragon Minis like the next guy, but they're really hard to store. They take up a lot of room. You know how many shelf space I use just storing dragons in boxes? Too much. That's what. Again, will be interesting to see about the 3D terrain, especially with my recent kick on anti-3D terrain-ish. Minotaur looks great. Nice scale too. He looks really nice and big, which I dig. Mandalorian guy looks cool too. I'm sorry. Medico or Medicio or well, I don't know, whatever. Anyway, delay of 6 months. Yeah, just half a year delay. Could be worse, I guess, but is what it is. I know there's some production issues, there's some shipping issues, there's all sorts of issues right now. Totally get that. It's a thing. Massive Darkness 2 has some delay. However, that's all you get. Look to cause some delay. How much? I don't know. Also, I was looking at this, and it didn't help that it's right after these minis, right? So I'm looking at these, and I'm like, oh, these look really cool. And Lotus Madness Studio doesn't make the best minis. There are better minis than they make, but these are still quite nice, right? These are not bad minis. And then I go to this, and all I see is the flat, plain, Command ones without sculpted bases. Or as I was talking about Townsfolk Tussle with the sculpted bases. And I don't know, I guess it's just a bummer to see Command still fall behind. Because it used to be leaders in that part. in that department, and they just are not anymore. Like, their big stuff still looks interesting, but even then, they edge towards cartoony a lot more than they used to, because cartoony gets you away with a lot of, less detail. Like, oh, you don't need to texture that feather, right? Anyway, it just all the flatness sucks, right? So like that's kind of interesting. But then as you see more, it's just like flat. And again, that no alt poses or anything like that. It just kind of a bummer. Flat. So again, these guys, cool. Everything else is, I don't know. It's hard to get excited about that as much as I used to. So it was just something I was noticing and thinking about, and something I think that they should step up to really start standing out more. I think the investment and the added cost would be paid back in people being more interested and excited about their game. If all of their components looked good instead of some looking cool as 2D sketches made into 3D, like with depth, but not, evoking motion and stuff like that. Like, I don't know how many shields, like, first of all, nobody holds a shield like that, right? But you do that because then it's flat, so that when you sandwich it together in the mold, it fits nice there, and you don't have to print it separately and then pay for somebody to glue it on, because God forbid we spend money on our miniatures more than what the bare minimum is, which is single cast flat, which is what this stuff is. And then of course there's a flat base that you don't have to try out. I don't know. It would be nice to see them do more. And also, if you're gonna say there's a delay, give an estimate. It's just an estimate. Also, it's kind of like the rules. You have to give an estimate. Like the FTC says that. I don't know if Come cares about what the FTC says though. But anyway, yeah. If you can't ship the product when you thought it was, you need to give reasonable information on how you will and when you will. Otherwise, you can get a full refund. Full, not no Kickstarter back thing. At least that's what the FTC says. But again, I don't know what Come cares about that. But anyway, ironically, after all of those delays, and Trespass Odyssey, we're on track. Update number 74. What a great title. This is interesting because they talk about a few things here. So first of all, it's great to see that they're on track for Q1 2022. This is for Wave 1, by the way. But they are just... they're like, hey, this is working, and this is working, and we're working on this, and we're doing that. And by the way, companion app got to a certain point, but now we are putting that on a hold to make sure that we can finalize everything else and then do the app. And I dig that as well. It's optional anyway, so that's fine. TTS closed beta. They're like, hey, it actually benefited from all this. It'll be an open beta here soon, because of the whole COVID and playtesting and all that kind of stuff. We actually put more into it. That's super neat as well. I dig that. They talk about a lot of stuff here, right? And it is delayed, but they're on target for their delay, if that makes sense. But again, they were trying to do stuff during COVID when you're locked down, and that can be very hard on stuff. And I totally get that, and I totally appreciate that. This picture, by the way, of this army marching towards this like Cthulhu blob crap has me interested. Anyway, I'm not going to go into all of this so much. What I will say is what this right here was really, really cool. This whole why Kickstarter games take so long. Definitely worth a read if you have the time, because they even talk about money, which is very interesting. I love it when people are upfront and honest about stuff, about making money and financial sense and all this stuff. One of the great things he talked about was avoiding content creep. In a game like this, it's very hard to do. And it'd be interesting to see what line they kind of navigated there, because there's no book on here's how to make Aeon Trespass Odyssey the best thing ever. You just have to do it and hope you're doing it right. And anyway, I think that's super cool that they were kind of talking about all that. So very cool. They did tease a few things. First of all, oh my gosh, their art is amazing and epic, and it's always super zoomed out, and people are all tiny. And I think that the skill of this is crazy. Okay, so they're talking about this boss fight. Okay, yeah, looks fairly normal. There's a city over here and a city over here, and then some columns, stuff like that. Let's go fight them. And then, oh, look at that. At level 2, you're in the sky. These are like these pillars. I'm assuming it's kind of like this, right? So you're flying around here, and you have to like land on these pillars and stuff, and you have to have these, essentially these cloud soar titans that I'm assuming have the wings, or can like rappel onto things and stuff like that. So they're talking about all that kind of stuff. Sounds very cool and interesting, and I dig it. I like changing things up like that. One of the things they're talking about is, and I don't know if it's actually here or not, but they talk about trying to provide new things as the game goes on, not just more of the same. They're talking about how sometimes you are going to try to avoid being eaten. Sometimes you're going to want to be eaten by an enemy. And of course, you can do things inside of the enemy because these enemies are gigantic. So there's whole mechanics around that. Oathsworn might have something like that too. Spoiler. Anyway, my point is that they were talking about not just giving more of the same, right? One of the things a lot of people didn't like about Chronicles of Drunagor, the original one, is that it was the same thing over and over again, right? Maybe theme change and stuff like that, but for the most part, you're doing the same thing. So changing things up, changing mechanics up, having it be like, now you're fighting in the sky and pillars and you have to zip from column to column to column and stuff like that. Again, or maybe you have to go inside of the Titan and attack its weak spot inside of it or some junk like that. Super cool. Then we have a Kingdoms Forlorn miniature reveal here. Freaking Toad Dragon. This looks incredible. Again, it's such a weird and unique. By the way, look at the people there. I dig that as well. They are definitely worshipping the Toad Dragon. Good for Toad Dragon. I love how unique it is. I really do. It's and then again, this mini, like I want to paint this mini, and it's even got the people on it. Look at that. I love it. It's so cool. Hopefully that's to scale. That's the hard part, is if my character is bigger than that guy, then we might have a problem, because that scale kind of bums me there. And then this one, they don't even give the name, but it's Sins of Hercules. It's Hercules, but I think it's the Greek version, which is Hercules. Anyway, they haven't told us much about this. We suspect, we being me and others, suspect that it's tied into Aeon Trespass Odyssey, though how, we don't quite know yet. But we won't even know about that for a while anyway, because this is coming next. However, they want to get Wave 1 out first. Props for them. Again, that's how you do it. Make a game, and then the rest will follow suit. Moving on, DEI. Meeples time. Ugh, gross. Meeples. Okay, moving on from that. Limbo Eternal War 1.5 was canceled. Makes sense, I think. Definitely launched prematurely, right? There's more to do, more to talk about. I've talked to them in depth about it. Essentially, you got to sell your game. And that's what, again, game. Your minis are beautiful. They will bring people and they will make people love it. You need to either have them be a miniature line, but if you want it to be a game, it's a game. And you're selling a game with cool minis. And that's how you have to market it 100%. You can't mix it up. You can't conflate it. It needs to be a thing all the time. So definitely focus on that. And I think they will. And even this new picture shows them like on there. There was talk about like terrain overlays. Again, don't launch it without that. I feel like get that set up then and put that in the picture too. So it doesn't just look like chess. Like if terrain's going to be a thing, it needs to be there before you like just get ready. I understand wanting to print at certain times and all that. It doesn't matter, because if it doesn't fund, it doesn't matter anyway. Or if it barely funds. And I mean, like, is that how you want to do it, or would you rather do the delay? So focus on the game, on the gameplay, on how great it is, and how great your minis are too. And then you should do, I think, pretty well there. Hopefully. Okay, next up, Wolfenstein, a delivery date. First of all, they have this like really cool looking kind of holder for everything, which is kind of neat. I don't know how well that'll hold stuff, but I don't know. I'm trying to remember how much ammo I typically have. It's whatever. They're also going and making the dice tower, which is cool. I'm going to go ahead and play this just because I think it's really cool. First of all, the minis look great, but I mean, you guys already knew that. I showed you all that. That's those are like final minis. I don't know about color. Anyway, it's always cool when you get to see some steel molds and stuff like that. So there you go. You can see some of that. We don't see enough of that, I think, on this side of things. So those are the walls. So those will be clamped and then poured in, and then you have your miniature. So that's pretty cool to see that. Moving on from that, we have Bardsung update. They have puppies. This is not about the game hardly at all. A lot of people complained in the comments saying, hey, I want an update about the games. I don't care. That's a cool puppy. I'm okay. Like, I get the other ones, but this one I make an exception for because it's Bardsung. And I do appreciate the puppies and kitties. I think it's great. So that's awesome. Anyway, yeah, I'm actually okay with that. Just wanted to share. Hey, we started with cute dragons, so we're going to end with puppies and doggies. Myth and Gold Blacklist Games, that's coming summer 2021. Guess what? It is summer. It's August right now, so I'm assuming very soon. It's essentially a fantasy-based football. I'm sure you've never heard of that before. So, I don't know. Be kind of interesting to see how that works. I don't have much interest in fantasy football, but of any kind. But either way, cool for those that do. All right. This is kind of a tease. So Earth Under Siege has shown this, and it's kind of cool, right? You see the escalation track, and you see incident tokens going in, and then different, spawn points and an alarm. It kind of reminds me of a Reichbusters Wolfenstein kind of thing, right? Where you're going in sneaky, and you have the spawn pool, and then, oh no, now you have to add a patrol to the spawn pool, so now there are patrols that might spawn and stuff like that, and a threat level, right? So kind of a cool little dashboard here. However, I'm going to one-up you with an exclusive. Look at this. Okay, so now we can get a little bit better picture. We see these cards with good and bad. Again, I'll have a video probably to explain this game more later. But for now, you see, good. Okay, choose a patrol and teleport it into its target zone, right? Or bad, choose a number of patrols equal to whatever that is. And maybe it's this, I don't know. And teleport them into the target zone. So the good one, it's still teleporting right to where it is, right? Bad one, even more come. And then it has a little flavor text. They're coming out of the freaking walls, man. I dig it. I like it. Enemies have +1 to their line of sight or something like that so they can see you better. Looks kind of interesting. And with that, my voice is going out. I need a drink. It's super late. Guys, I've had a lot of fun talking to you guys. So there was a ton here. Hope again you appreciate it. If there's something I missed that you want to share with the community, comment below. On your way out, while I take a drink, feel free to give a like to the video, share it around, let other people know about what's coming in, what's coming out, what PMs are coming, what PMs are leaving, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of info here. Feel free to timestamp before them if you know there's something specific that you'd want to know about. And if you have any questions, of course, feel free to ask as well. And there is that link to that Patreon button if you appreciate the effort I put into this channel. It does help a lot, trust me. And with that, thank you so much, guys. Have a great rest of your day. Talk to you guys again really soon.